this too long. So this is the Maxis Jax. They're only about 20 pounds a piece. You can see they're very compact, very easy to store, and that's key. I'm not sure where you guys are storing your jack stands right now, but I can almost guarantee that if we replace jack for jack, I could take you down to using about 1/10 of the space than what you're probably currently using. Okay, so that's key, and that's just for storage. For transportation, you can probably send 4 pair of these out to a job in the back seat of a pickup truck. Okay, one person can easily take a full set without gouging their shins or gouging their calves, using any swear words, and get them up to get them up to the point where they need to be setting these up. And this is the simple process that it takes to set them up. You've got a tab here, and that's what's keeping them collapsing together. You pull this pin. First thing you do is you set the jack to the height of the axle. And so the axle that you're going to use is 1.5 inches or a 2-inch piece of rigid. We've brought a 2-inch piece of rigid, and the reason is you need the OD on that. That's what we're looking for. When you use 1.5 inches or a 2-inch piece of rigid, it provides very limited clearance in here, and you'll see the effect of that. So we're going to imagine that we have our spool here with the axle in right up underneath. So we snug it up underneath our axle, and it closes right on. That's the 2-inch setting. If we had 1.5 inches, it would collapse down to this point or this point, okay? And so now all we need to do is pin this on. Pin this on. And what once looked like kind of a unstable setup is now an extremely stable setup that is not going to fall. The other benefit is you have 4 sets of sealed bearings in here, okay? So when that spool rolls, it rolls very freely on that. It doesn't bind up. Okay? One side at a time, you push up. You don't do any lifting. So the other thing this does is it negates any unsafe lifting on your job. And if you get in any safety meeting, or if you look at the stats of anybody's books as far as their unsafe conditions or their injuries, most of those lifting injuries are coming from lifting up that spool of wire. That's pretty common, okay? So you lift this up. We actually had we did a show in St. Louis, had a 300-pound spool of Southwire Simple. It was a little bit slow. A small family walked by, had a 3-year-old boy and a 6-year-old boy. I asked the father if his 6-year-old son could help. I attached and clamped on the axle, and I lifted one side and asked that 6-year-old boy, he's only about that tall, if he could come up and do me a favor and lift that other side, and that's a 300-pound spool. And he was able to do it without any help. That's an illustration of really what these jacks can do. One of the videos that we show is one person setting up 1,000 foot of 500 MCM copper. That's about a 1,700-pound spool, and he does it without any unsafe lifting condition. Okay? So you've got 4 sets of sealed bearings that encapsulate that, and again, the very limited clearance in there enables you to create a table effect so that they won't fall over. Now, are they different from traditional jack stands? They absolutely are. Traditional jack stands won't even move. You won't see them move at all. Will these move? They will. But will they fall over? They will not. They cannot. And so when you're getting close to the end of your spool of wire and your spool is getting really light and it falls off or it gets jerked off the top of your jacks that are just sitting in the saddle, that's not going to happen to these because it's clamped onto the axle. So it's going to prevent an inefficient process in your wire pull as well. Okay? So all those things considered, this is the best process, the best set of jack stands out there. Now, the capacity and the range, it's going to do a 24 to a 48-inch spool overall, and it has only up to a 3,000-pound capacity at this time. So there is a limit to it, but within that range, there's nothing that's going to beat it.